So I was just finishing listening to the book The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and I think I talked about this recently, but the book is mainly about a force he calls resistance, and it's what stands between you and getting the shit that needs to get done. And at the end of the book, I don't remember who said it or exactly, I probably misquoted a little bit, but the idea was like, do the work for the work's sake and not for, whatever else. So it got me thinking about work and why we do work and all this kind of stuff, and then being super connected to the outcomes of what we do. So like if you work at a company and you're doing the work and all you're doing it for is the paycheck, like this is just a means to an end. In theory, and I'm sure not everybody's like this, but in theory, you're not going to put as much into the work as you would if you were doing the work for the sake of the work. And the idea behind that, my understanding, is like sort of along the lines of what I can't remember his name, the guy that wrote The Untethered Soul. He did a lecture series where he was talking about the work as sort of a form of meditation, and how all work is important. And he said something like, even when you're sweeping the floor, if that's your job, is just to sweep the floors, to put everything you got into that job and do the best job possible, because it's important work. And so some people may look down on that kind of work, like, oh, all he does is sweep the floors around here, like I'm an executive and my job is way more important. But like the guy that sweeps the floors, his job is also very important. Like he's making the place nice for the next people to come in, he's making the place nice for the customers and all this kind of shit, and the other people on the team. It's important work. So if you're putting in, if you're gonna do the task anyway, regardless of what it is, like why not put everything you got into it? And when I say that, I don't mean like fucking like go crazy about it, but like I guess kind of like don't half-ass it. If you just go all in and make sure the floor is swept perfectly, and kind of on this floor sweeping thing, but that's not really the point. But it's like a form of meditation, when you're getting fully into the work. Like it's another way of practicing mindfulness. So if you were sweeping a floor and you didn't allow your mind to go in all these other places, and you really put your focus on what you're doing, regardless if it's like a mundane task, then that is a form of disconnecting, and from your own shit that's going on in your head. So that's one thing you could put into the work. But then the other thing is, like, the way that Stephen Pressfield is talking about it is, he wasn't really talking, I'm kind of mixing up different shit here, so hopefully I'm not messing it up too bad. The War of Art, the book, is more about following your calling. So he says, this form of resistance is keeping you from doing the thing that you're sort of meant to do. So it could be anything from, like, he's talking about it a lot of being an artist or being a creator or something like that. And resistance also shows up when you're trying to better yourself. So if you're trying to create better habits, like reading every day or getting exercise or getting in better shape or things like that, there's going to be a great deal of resistance there. I'm losing my train of thought. I know what I was getting at. So all of this started to make me think about being connected to the outcome, and that's what I think that's what I was really aiming to talk about, is like I do a lot of work, and a lot of times I've been very connected to the outcome, and so when I'm doing this stuff, I'm thinking of what's the result of this thing going to be? And a lot of times it kind of holds me back a little bit, so I won't put out certain things because, well, that's how it used to be. I'm not quite like, I don't think about it this much anymore. But disconnecting from the outcome and just going all in on the work because the work needs to be done, I find it's very helpful to move forward. And you can think about it on a lot of different ways. So some of the more common ones is like, if you're growing a business and you're doing all this stuff you need to do, especially in the beginning stages, most businesses, it takes time. It takes a long time for a lot of your efforts to start, to start showing results. And so I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated, is because they're so connected to the outcome. So they're like, okay, I'm going to put in 12 hours a day, which, it is what it is. There's different ways of looking at it. But if you're building a business, you're putting in all these hours and you're not seeing really a whole lot of growth, people tend to get frustrated. And I think that's where people give up when things get hard, because they're really connected to the outcome. And then you could look at it from like a physical health standpoint. Like if you're overweight, you could be eating healthy and exercising for several weeks before you really even notice anything. And so being connected to the outcome, like looking at the scale all the time, or looking at yourself in the mirror and not really seeing any changes, that can be frustrating and that kind of derails you. But when you disconnect from the outcome and realize, like, this is the work that has to be done. Like, I have to do this amount of exercise, I have to eat this kind of food, whatever it is that you're doing to get yourself to where you need to be. That's the work that needs to be done, regardless of what happens, like what the outcome is. You're going to have to do that work anyway. So even if it takes longer, or if you hit these plateaus, or, it takes a long time to ramp up, every day you just have to do that work. And if you're sitting there focused on the end result, it tends to be frustrating. And I feel this all the time, like mainly in business, but I guess in physical health also. But it's like, when I'm connected to the outcome and I'm looking at like like in my business, like I put in this and then I look at the sales numbers, and if the sales numbers aren't what I want them to be, I get frustrated. And it makes it harder to do the work, because I'm like really connected to, like, is the business growing? Is the stuff that I'm doing working? But if I'm doing things that I know works, like there's certain levers that I can pull in my business that I know works, but it doesn't mean like I'm going to pull the lever and then all of a sudden all this money is going to start coming in. It's like you're going to pull the lever, and you're going to wait, then tomorrow you're going to pull the lever. The lever is a metaphor for the work, obviously. So every day you do the work, and you may not see results for a while. But we're at a stage now where, like, I've been doing that for a long time. Like this business, I've been really grinding away at this business for almost 10 years now. Like, we opened the first machine in 2015. I started the company in 2002 as a motion graphics company. I've talked about that. 2015, I opened the graph shop. And I still feel like we haven't even started. Like, I still feel like we're warming up. Like we're getting things figured out, and then we're really gonna fucking hit the ground running. It's like Andy Frisella talks about this, like every day is day one. No matter how far down the line he gets, every day is day one. I feel like that's like a really good way of being disconnected from the outcome, the end result. Well, in business there is no end result. Like, you're just gonna keep, well, maybe for some people, not for me, but yeah, every day is day one, man. I mean, I think that's the best way to look at it. And every day you're gonna have to put in the work, and as cliche as it sounds, that's just the reality of any kind of endeavor that you want to do. And just, I don't know, there's a lot more that you could talk about, like what what's the right work to do, what's the wrong work to do. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But if you're doing the work that needs to be done, like an easy one is the physical health. If you know you're eating healthy, and if you're counting calories or counting macros or whatever, if you're hitting those numbers and you're exercising every day, that's the work you need to do. And if it takes 2 months to start seeing results, then it's going to take 2 months to start seeing results. But if you keep doing it every single day for years, there's no way you're not going to get to where you need to go. You may need to adjust things and tweak things, like if you're building a business, if you're trying to get better at graffiti or better at art or any of that kind of shit. If you do the shit you need to do, like if you're trying to get better as a graffiti writer, if you're practicing every single day and you're doing all the shit that you need to do, the results are going to come. But when they're going to come, it's not really up to you. It's just sort of like it's gonna happen when it happens. Or if you're trying to become a famous graffiti writer and you're just getting up all over the place and people still don't know who you are, it doesn't change. The work that's required doesn't change. You're still gonna have to go out, however many times you can and do the work that you need to do, and then eventually that's the other thing. I mean, I don't know if I want to start a whole nother thing, but you may not get to where you think you're going to go, but like you're going to get somewhere and you're going to achieve something. So disconnect from the outcome, do the shit that's required, and there's no way that you're not going to achieve. I don't want to say that you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, because I don't know, but like you're going to achieve something, and maybe it'll even be better than the original idea. You never know. All right.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And stay up.